Welcome, music fam, to this week's Music Talk podcast. I am Victor, your music mentor. Look, before we move on, make sure you get a chance to subscribe to our channel, like us on Facebook, or you can follow us on Instagram. Or you can go right to our website, www.sanctifiedsound.org. Hey, at the end of this, make sure that you stick around because we're going to give you some information that is going to change your life forever. All right, so come on back and we'll dive right in with our first guest. Welcome, music fam, to this week's episode of Music Talks podcast. I am Victor, your music mentor, and I am sitting here with a very special friend of mine. Her name is Karen Mire. And I'm not going to take her fire away from her. I'm going to let her introduce herself. Miss Karen, how are you?
I am doing wonderful, and I thank you so much for giving me this opportunity today to be on your program.
Oh, it's no problem at all. No problem. My pleasure. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself. Like, what have you been doing, like, with your music career? Where'd you get started? Different things like that.
Well, I can tell you, Victor, this has been a real journey. Truthfully, years ago, the Lord prophesied to me that I would call to come into the congregation and sing to the people of God. Mm-hmm. And then He presented opportunities for me to do that. I became, after singing specials in churches, I was led to Baton Rouge and became a minister of music for 12 years, 4 services a week there.
Wow. Where at?
That was at End Time Faith Ministry in Baton Rouge. Okay. And very prophetic ministry. And then for the last 17 years, I co-lead worship at my church. So there's been a lot of ministry for me with that. And then, of course, I've been a backup singer for other people doing their CD projects and stuff. Wow. And this is my second CD project that I'm working on currently.
Wow. So who did you back up?
I just did some local Christian artists.
Okay.
A local Christian artist, as well as a couple of other people. Actually, my twin sister.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's mostly been family members, and then 2 family members with their CDs, and a local Christian artist that one of the Spooner brothers did their help with their CDs.
Yeah, which one?
I don't know if it was Eric or
Ian. Was it Ian or Emmett?
It was Emmett. It was probably Emmett.
Emmett, yeah. I went to high school with them. We can go way back. So.
Awesome. Very anointed family. The whole family.
Absolutely. You so you mentioned that you're a twin. So, like, how is that? I know some of our audience may have that. Is it true that you kind of feel each other? Like if somebody hits one, the other one feels it? Or...
Well, in some ways it is. We've had funny stories in the past of us both getting an envie. I don't know if you know what that means. I'm from Lafayette, so that means like a craving for.
Yeah.
We both wanted the same purse, the same shoes. We'll show up in the same color scheme, and we can plan it at all.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's really awesome. Mm-hmm. But we're both pretty much called to do the same thing. We're both called prophetic psalmists, which means that God downloads the songs into us with scriptures. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty awesome.
So explain that, the downloading part, because I know that certain recording artists may not understand, how psalmists write their songs, and it's just kind of give a basic blueprint on how that happens.
Well, honestly, it was kind of in seasons of just seeking God, really seeking God. The Lord I would read the scriptures, and then as I'm reading the scriptures, I'd hear a melody with it. And so I would literally start singing what I was hearing as I was reading it. So it was a literal download from the Lord of what He wanted, what notes He wanted to accompany His scriptures. It's really pretty awesome.
Yeah. So it's just like random things, or something that is like the word for the day or something like that, or?
It would be like if He led me to a particular passage, in in the Word, I would actually hear, as I was reading
Hmm.
a passage, he would let me hear the notes that would go with that passage. So like I said, it's really been interesting to watch God do it. I know for the first CD, there was a 2 week period that I was told, I need you to write 12 to 14 songs, and you've got 2 weeks to do it. And I prayed and sought the Lord and fasted at that time, to a certain period every day. And God would literally lead me to the passages that He wanted me to write songs about, and He would actually give me the melody for the songs as I
Wow.
did it. So every song God gives me has a history with it. I know where I was when He gave me the song. I know what I was doing, what passage. It's pretty obvious what passages from the scriptures, but
Hmm.
it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Like, at what age did that start? Like, that's fascinating.
Thank you. Well, I think it's really awesome, an awesome calling. I was going to say this, that I heard somebody say one time that if you find your passion, you'll never work a day in your life again. And
Hmm.
truly, because God's given me that, it excites me to see what else He's going to give me, because He's trying to tell people something.
Yeah.
Um, you're my producer, so you know some of the songs, 8 of the songs to date of the new CD, but to me, it's exciting because it's what's got on God's heart that He wants the body of Christ to know.
Yeah.
One of the songs, I'm sorry.
Well, I was just curious on, like, how early did that start in your life? Like, for you, for God to download those type of songs into your spirit. Like when did that start? Like, like speak on that.
Actually, that began. This was a purging and a purifying process. I think you and I talked one time about, you had gone somewhere and you were, like really aggravated to see that people were treating ministry like it was entertainment and karaoke.
Right.
And God had to deal with me in that. He told me, I went to a day of prayer in another city to sing for that event.
Hmm.
And the Lord, we were praying before the event, and someone prophesied to me and said, God says, I've called you, He said, not to be an entertainer, but to worship me, and I'm going to move. And
Wow.
so, see, that's why I find it so important to let people understand the calling to minister before God with His music. It is, like you said, sanctified sound. Absolutely. We are not getting the worship, we are giving the worship.
Wow, that's good.
And so, anyway, that purging process started with the first CD. Even in the music, you can kind of hear that tug of war between flesh and spirit.
Hmm.
I talk about it in the first song on that CD, but it's just God had to really deal with me to show me, no, you're not in the world, you're not of the world, you're in it, but you cannot treat my music like it is, like your Britney Spears. Okay, it's not entertainment.
Right.
And so, I had to really come to grips with that, die to any kind of worldliness, and just say, God, let you be God in me. Say what you want to say. I'll sing it the way I hear it, that you've given it to me, and it's unto you. Totally.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's so true. How certain ministries and certain artists, like we always talk about, is glorified karaoke. It's not a performance. It's a ministry. You're presenting the gospel to your audience and to people who are following you and listening to you. So, you know, so do you attribute where you are in your career specifically based upon that experience?
Yeah, absolutely. Because God had to purge me to be able to give me the downloads that He wanted, because He had to bring me to a place of trust
Hmm.
where I could be what He wanted me to be and not seek my own glory with it, where it would be unto Him, that the music was going to be totally ministry unto Him. And then He could download the songs. In fact, one of the songs, Voice of Joy, is actually a prophecy, and I'm just saying that honestly,
Hmm.
about foretelling something that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And God's giving promise to His people that there will be restoration.
So this is one thing that I do know about you is that you have a very unique style. a style that hadn't been heard or appreciated for a while. It's coming back around to where people are going back to the pure and innocent worship from the heart. The Bible says, Jesus says, "Come as a child." It's more of an innocent type of worship. Can you explain specifically what your style?
Thank you very much. I think that's so true. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share about that. I know that what God's given me is then the actual sound. The Lord had prophesied to me through Apostle Marilyn Thornton in Baton Rouge.
Hmm.
Prophesied to me at a conference 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. She said, "God, she's hearing the sound. Give her the new sound. Give her the new sound, Lord." And it was that what He wanted me to bring back. Even God had told King Henry this, that for years, about 20 years, the word with worship had not been on His altar, but He was going to restore it, and He was doing that now. And so the songs I hear from God are songs that use the scripture, and they're catchy tunes with it,
Hmm.
which is exciting to see God do that, because it definitely is a way to give it in your spirit, as you're, and He likes the word. He is the word. So uh, I just see that God has. That's what my ministry He's given to me is not just thoughts on paper about how I'm feeling, or and that's great too. But what He has desired to be restored is His word with worship.
Wow. Wow. Now you mentioned Kent Henry. Like, what's your history with Mr. Henry, Mr. Kent Henry?
Well, I mean, I from the early days of getting born again, that
Hmm.
was what was popular at that time. He was a pioneer in that exact style of worship. Was God was downloading as a psalmist, because he is a psalmist,
Hmm.
the words of scripture that he would put in songs of worship and praise to God. And they did end up coming in a very strong compilation put together by Don Moen years ago when he worked at
Hmm.
Integrity Hosanna Music. So he was one of their key artists, and I've always treasured Kent Henry's style, because he was such a pioneer in it. Many of the songs are from him; they weren't other people's songs, and I just appreciate his love of using the Psalms and using the other scriptures that God gives him to worship God with.
So, do you think for a recording artist that it's beneficial to just have somebody that's there that they can identify with? Because I know a lot of artists right now just don't want to be like the next artist. They want to feel like they're the only one that has ever been this type of artist. But from what you're saying is that that you have a specifically similar style as Ken Henry. What do you think? What are your thoughts about artists having someone like that to glean from?
Well, I think it's very important, because these people have been the pioneers to show the way on how to break the mold, from being entertainment to being worship.
Hmm.
And so they show you literally how to enter in to true worship, that where it's an interactive thing between you and God, and bringing the people into that experience with God. That's what we're called to do. Well, at least that's what I'm called to do. So it is a holy calling to do that. And I think if you're really a Christian artist, it is to give God the glory and not self.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, how do you think that translates to today?
Same thing. I mean, I think there are people who get caught up in it, and they don't realize that they're getting the glory. I think God loves to raise people up, and I think that's a tightrope walk to learn how to remember it's all about Him, and thank Him for where He's bringing you. But you know, it's all
Right,
about Him.
right. Speaking of today, there's a pandemic that's going on with the whole COVID-19 that's got this whole big social distancing thing that's going on. It's kind of ravaging the entertainment industry from top to bottom. Every industry, whether it's like, you know, working in construction or, the politics. It's just ravaging everything. And so, how are you handling that right now? I know everybody's kind of quarantined and everything. So, like, what's your basic routine right now?
Well, can I tell you honestly that I really feel from everything that happens with this whole thing. God says he doesn't steal, kill, steal, or destroy. He's not the one who did that.
Mm-hmm.
But what I do see that God has tried to do in this is that he's allowing this as an instrument to bring his people back, to use his time wisely, to seek him, to get
Absolutely.
strengthened, to
Mm-hmm.
get refueled, to get repurposed, realigned, so that they get their focus right, they get their strength back, and really, I mean, I think a lot of people were caught off guard. They got
Right.
into fear.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know how to use their authority. They've gotten into fear, and we've had to, learn quickly how to overcome those things, even in the midst of this. But I'm using this as a time to seek God, because I really, really feel strongly that this is a time that God is really drawing us to seek Him while we can,
Mm-hmm.
and quickly in the next couple of months. I really believe this is going to be a thing of the past, and lessons we have learned to overcome fear, to use our authority, and even just getting a closer intimacy with Him during this time is going to give us the strength we need to go forth in the next season like He's called it to do.
Right. What do
So
you?
that's my perspective. That's
Yeah.
my real focus right now, to be totally honest with you.
Right. Yeah. 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 Now, there's some people that believe that this is a line drawn in the sand for believers and non-believers, and how you handle this particular time, whether it's going to draw you closer to God or draw you closer to everything other than God, whether it be media or just being selfish, or you angry, or you're just thinking about or worrying about your current situation. Speak upon that. Like, what do you think about that line in the sand being drawn? Like, what do you think about people that speak about that type of stuff?
I honestly think that people that are not saved don't know how to handle what's going on. So
Mm-hmm.
they're doing what's normal and natural for them. They're trying to fill that void with projects at home,
Mm-hmm.
other things that they're doing just to kind of keep busy, Netflix, overeating, whatever.
Yeah.
And if you're Christian, you kind of have you do have to walk that too, to kind of deal with that. But if you understand that God wants you right now to seek Him, that He's allowing this downtime to give you what I've heard what the word I've heard is reset,
Mm-hmm.
to give you a divine reset, to strengthen you, because you're getting ready to go out after this and do what you need to do, and other aspects, all aspects of your life. It's imperative that you have that your foundation strengthened, so you can withstand the storms, even the storms that will come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, what's some advice that you would give to people that feel, yes, they're saved, but they don't know what to do other than pray? But as far as life after this, and having, I know we talked off air about this, about a new normal going on. What would your advice be for them? Like, still during this pandemic, we're going to go back to work, and everything is going to attempt to get back to normal until a vaccine is presented. What can artists do right now, other than seeking God right now? Not that I'm not downplaying that, but as far as their art is concerned, like as far as
Yeah.
creating creating new songs and just being creative and doing other things. Like, what advice would you give to somebody like that still wants to be creative during this time?
Well, I feel like, see, that what I did is by the Spirit. So definitely spend that time, quality time with God, and not just do it as a religious activity. I mean, really seek Him to you, sense that you're talking to Him and He's here, He's talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
Then after you're out of, because in that place you're going to receive creative ideas, you're going to receive directions, and you'll get, and so that's important, number one. And then secondly, make plans for different things,
Mm-hmm.
website in progress,
Right.
um, the other things that will be needful in place, as far as placing the music on different venues on the internet and things like that. um, Kind of having an overall business idea of where you're going to probably try to promote the songs afterwards, i.e., churches, churches that you'd like to talk to, support other artists, go there, and if as that comes back, be willing to go there to support them and actually go there, so that you can show them the support. You also get out and network while you're there.
Right.
I'm thinking of things like that, all of those things, including calling radio stations and feeling my way as to which songs might be appropriate
Mm-hmm.
with my CD, because it's not every one of them is, radio, top 40 kind of stuff, Christian stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but they are some that would like that in praise and worship times and things like that.
So, okay, so with this whole digital age that's going on right now, you still feel that radio is relevant?
Yes, it is. I
Mm-hmm.
think, to some degree. I think even more so, though. I mean, there are the mainstream ones, not even, the bridge and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But and those are. I think those that have already have a strong presence in communities will continue to be a strong presence.
Mm-hmm.
But and I think some of the smaller ones are too, that already have an audience. But I really feel like Facebook is big,
Mm-hmm.
and church websites are big, because I really feel like people are more internet driven nowadays,
Absolutely.
and so that's where they get their. If you already have a strong presence to interact with people in your uh, thing, in your, just even in your circle and stuff, and maybe enlarging that, and but that's, at least I haven't started that yet, but that is my idea, that's something that's going to be the next phase
Right.
to work on.
Absolutely. Especially now since everything is kind of at a standstill, using
Yeah.
the internet and promoting that way and understanding, even just learning during this time on um, how to promote on the internet is golden because I mean, what are you doing? So,
Right.
but you've advertised on the internet. I'm sorry, on the radio before, have you not?
I've actually not advertised my songs,
Hmm.
but I've actually had them play
Right. That's what I
in
mean.
a couple of, yeah.
So, what was the process for those that are listening that you went through to get your songs played? Because that's something that is still relevant, and people just are not going that route, which I believe is actually 100% relevant because you have those big stations that are still. It's still one of the main ways of getting information out is the radio. What was your experience, and how did you get your songs played on the radio?
Well, I actually, made phone calls,
Mm-hmm.
and I also went in person because I was involved in ministry, with, helping someone that was on the air weekly, going over there with them as they did their show. While I was there, I took the opportunity to give them my CD
Mm-hmm.
and asked them if they would play it. We already had a relationship. We were spending money with the station.
Right.
So it did kind of open the door to them being more open to the idea, but they did play it for,
Mm-hmm.
they still play the songs. I'm very grateful.
Yeah.
And then I did, go, like I said, I did go, some in the Gretna area, and gave them some CDs. They were very interested. I think they were very interested in seeing if I was also available for interviews and things like that.
So that's huge. Being there and being asked for to do interviews, that's what a lot of people don't really understand. And because it's not one thing just to, just to go. There's other things that's involved, especially when you get out and you network with folks. You have no ideas the opportunities that are there just because you showed up. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And but I can imagine it just wasn't like one phone call. It had to be many phone calls, right?
Actually, no, it was just one. But I tell you what, it was
Mm-hmm.
exciting because they were more interested to see that I was someone who was very sincere,
Mm-hmm.
because they wanted to know if I'd be available for interviews and for events if they
Okay.
wanted to put on station events and things like that. That's their primary concern. They
Yeah.
didn't want to back me and support me as someone worthy of listening to and airing if I wasn't going to show that I really was sincere about it.
That's cool. That's cool. So, what are you specifically? What are your goals right now for the future?
I just, I feel like Micah Stampley said this, and I thought it was so cool. He said, I no longer pray for God to open the doors. I just pray that I be ready when He does.
Hmm.
But my goal is to go to as many places that God will open the door for me, in churches, to sing in churches, because remember I'm called to come into the congregation
Mm-hmm.
and sing to the people of God. That was a prophetic word given to me. So I know I'm called to go into churches, whether it would be conferences or church conferences, or church buildings for services, or for other church gatherings of different kinds.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Okay, so let's shift gears for a minute, and I'm going to throw out some rapid fire questions at you, and straight off your head, I'm going to ask you a few questions, and just give me the answer that first comes to your head. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, what is an online source that you cannot live without?
Facebook.
Facebook. Any particular reason?
Definitely.
Any
I
particular
want to see,
reason, or
yeah, because I always want to see people like my stuff.
right?
I, you know, how many likes did I get on that one?
Oh wow, yes indeed.
You
All right. So, if you had no constraints with money, time, location, what would your perfect day look like?
if is that personal or is that spiritual?
It's your perfect day. You could do whatever you want with that day.
Oh my gosh, I'd like to make that a lifestyle question.
Okay.
But because I'd love to have one of those really mega awesome ramped up kind of RV kind of thingies
Mm-hmm.
that you can take on the road and go all over America and
Right.
see
Right.
every little blooming little place. It would be just, wake up this morning by the ocean. The next day I'll be in the mountains. Another day I love to travel, so yeah,
Wow. Wow. That sounds like a dream right there.
absolutely.
All right. What's the
Um,
best advice that you've ever received?
Spiritually, it would be surrender.
Hmm.
Because you can't do anything of your own. You just got to learn that, right? And I think that's another question you had. If you could learn anything when you were younger, what would that be that you
Right.
could have learned when you were younger? Surrender. If you do it earlier, you'll be in a proper alignment for God to do anything and everything He wants to do with your life. You hold you back, right?
Wow.
So give it to God and let Him have His way, and you will go. You will go.
Right. 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 Right.
Well, the other thing that mentioned naturally again was if you find something you really like to do and it becomes you're passionate about it,
Mm-hmm.
it will never become work.
Absolutely. I fully believe that. But speaking of your younger self, like if you had to go back and give your younger self some advice, knowing now, um, what would you give your younger self?
What would I tell my younger
Yeah,
self?
what would
What
you?
advice?
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I said, I think it's just surrender to God in every way possible. If it's His word, it's right. Do it. Because
Wow.
the blessed is a man that does the word. The more word you do, the more your word aligns with His heart, which His word is His heart. It's His will.
Mm-hmm.
Then if you don't kick against that, you get more. You're more blessed. The more blessed is the doer of the word.
Wow.
So I'm just saying it to me. It's something that you learn as you grow as a Christian. Hey, just do it His way. It's going to work out, and He's going to be happy with it, and you're going to be happy because you'll be blessed.
Yeah, I love the way that you said that. It's an action verb. You have to do this. It's not just you're hearing the word, or just kind of consuming it. You have to literally do this. It's very important that happens. I love how you said that. So, how could people get in contact with you?
They can, well, right now they can catch me on Facebook,
Hmm.
but and I have plans for my own Facebook page coming.
Okay.
But right now you can just get in touch with me, message me on Facebook, or they can call my cell. It's 225-405-1228.
Okay. Cool. Well, it has been a pleasure talking to you, Miss Karen. Um,
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
yeah, we hopefully have you back again. This time we'll have you in the studio, have you on
Sounds
camera
good.
and everything. So, but man, I just wanted to tell you how much we appreciate you, how much we love you. Keep doing your thing, and we'll catch back up with you another time. So, once again, this is Victor, your music mentor, saying so long, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
So one thing that you can always catch us here at Sanctified Sound saying is that your influence is based upon your relationships. And the more people that you know, the bigger your business will grow. In the same way that you advertise your business to attract and keep fans and supporters should be the same mindset that you have in attracting and keeping people that you need to help you grow your business. One of the biggest questions that artists ask us all the time is how do we build lasting relationships in the industries? And it all boils down to one word: encourage. 1 Thessalonians 5:11 says, therefore encourage one another and build one another up. Hebrews 3:13 says, exhort one another every day as long as it's called today. There's no more attractive person than one who encourages and motivates you. The people who you keep in your innermost circle, for the most part, are people who believe in you in one fashion or another. And in that same vein, you must become someone who believes in other people. So the way that you grow your influence is to be a person who constantly encourages people. For example, there's a practice that I work with each one of my clients to apply. And I actually still apply this principle today myself. So at each event that you go to, whether you're on the card or not, which means that you should be going to events, you have 5 groups of people that you're going to look to encourage and eventually become friends with. Number 1 is the event coordinator. Number 2 is the host. Number 3, every artist on the card. Number 4, the DJ or the sound man, and sometimes it's both. And number 5, it's every band member. And your main objective is to encourage them in some manner. And I typically wait until the end of the night to approach these individuals. Now that means I stay until the end of the program. Now staying to the end means everything to everyone on that list. So during the event, you're going to do your best to locate everyone that you need to encourage. And once the event is over, you begin your approach. The goal is to strictly encourage them. Even if the event of their performance is subpar, find something positive to say to them. Proverbs 12:25 says, the anxiety in a man's heart weighs him down, but a good word makes him glad. And this is not a long conversation, this is small talk. So your engagement should last between 30 seconds to a minute and a half. And this is key because you need to find as many people as you can on that list to encourage. And remember, the conversation is not about you at all. It's not about you being a recording artist, it's all about them. And this tactic is especially helpful to local recording artists because you will start to see the same people repeatedly at these different events, and yes, you will still go up to them again. And it's crazy because with encouragement and uplifting other people, it causes you to actually start to be genuine in your love for people. And this is the outcome. Eventually, you will not be going up to strangers anymore to talk to. They will actually become your friends. And this leads to the final goal. You as an artist will at one point need your friends to help you with your events and your parties. And who will you call? It'll be the same people that you have been encouraging at the events that you've attended. And they will gladly help you simply because you selflessly have been a blessing to them in the past. This is how you build long-lasting relationships in the Christian music industry. Hey, we look forward to seeing you real soon, so be sure to connect with us on social media. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram and Twitter. You can also check out our YouTube page or simply visit our website just to see what new and exciting things are happening in a city near you. Everything is in the description box below, so go and check it out, okay? See you soon.